Fellas, let's be real for a second. Society loves to tell you that if you don't have a girlfriend, something must be wrong with you. They say, oh, you must be lonely, you must be missing out. But let me ask you this. Who told you that being single means being incomplete? Because right now, somewhere out there is a man who's stuck in a relationship that drains his soul, while another man is out there alone, building his empire, unbothered. So if you've ever wondered what life is like without a girlfriend, if it's a curse or a hidden blessing, then sit tight, because this speech will challenge everything you thought you knew. By the end, you'll either walk away with a newfound appreciation for your independence or realize exactly what you need to do next. Now let's talk about the real truth about a man's life without a girlfriend. No compromises, no debates about what restaurant to eat at, no arguments about texting back late. When you're single, every decision you make is yours. You wake up when you want, grind for your goals, and answer to nobody. But here's the catch. Too much freedom can become a double-edged sword. No one checks on you when you're slipping. No one holds you accountable. If you're not careful, independence turns into isolation, and before you know it, you're comfortable being alone, but uncomfortable with connection. A man who stands alone learns to handle his emotions. He doesn't rely on someone else for validation. But the question is, does he learn to ignore his need for companionship, or does he master it? Because let's be honest, there are nights when the silence is deafening, when you come home to an empty room and all the money, muscles, and success in the world can't hold you like a warm embrace. Let's not pretend. Relationships can be expensive. Dates, gifts, vacations, anniversaries, it all adds up. A single man has the advantage of stacking his money, investing in himself, and securing his future. But here's what nobody tells you. When you build alone, it's easier to get lost in the grind. You chase success so hard that you forget why you wanted it in the first place. Because what's the point of having it all if you have no one to share it with? A man without a girlfriend has the rare chance to become the best version of himself without distractions. He can spend hours in the gym, work late nights, and learn skills that set him apart. But here's where men go wrong. They wait for a relationship to give them purpose instead of building a purpose that naturally attracts the right partner. Are you using your single life to elevate? Or are you wasting it on distractions and meaningless entertainment? Society often tells men that being single for too long means you're missing out, that you're somehow less of a man if you don't have a woman beside you. But the real ones know the value of a man is not determined by his relationship status, but by his purpose, his principles, and his direction. Still, let's be real, there's a certain power in knowing someone is in your corner, believing in you when the world doubts you. The greatest gift of being single is that you are in full control. You can decide whether to stay alone, chase casual encounters, or prepare for something real. But here's the truth. Being single isn't about waiting for the right one to come along. It's about becoming the right one so that when love finally arrives, you don't just take from it, you elevate it. So, to the man without a girlfriend, understand this. Your life isn't on pause. It's not empty. It's not a waiting room. It's a foundation, a training ground, a season where you either build yourself into a man who is whole, or you drift through life waiting for someone else to complete you. If you're single, own it, grow, build, elevate, because when the time comes and the right one crosses your path, you won't just be lucky, you be ready. And that, my friends, makes all the difference. Freedom and independence are often seen as the ultimate perks of being single, and for good reason. A man without a girlfriend moves through life with no strings attached, no obligations to check in, and no compromises to make. His time is his own, his decisions are his own, and every move he makes is dictated solely by his personal ambitions and desires. He can wake up and plan his day exactly as he pleases, without having to consider how his choices affect another person. There are no expectations to meet, no late-night arguments over miscommunications, and no pressure to constantly prove his worth to someone else. This kind of freedom allows a man to focus on himself in a way that is nearly impossible when navigating a relationship. He can dedicate his time to mastering his craft, building his career, and investing in personal growth without worrying about balancing those efforts with the needs of a partner. His ambitions are unhindered, and his path is entirely his to walk. Yet the reality of such independence is not as perfect as it seems. A man may find himself so caught up in the luxury of making his own decisions that he slowly drifts into isolation. There's a fine line between independence and loneliness, and many men cross it without even realizing it. The absence of emotional attachment means that he doesn't have to deal with the challenges of a relationship. But it also means that no one is there to hold him accountable when he starts to slip. Without someone to remind him to take a break, to show appreciation for his efforts, or to push him forward when self-doubt creeps in, he risks becoming his own worst enemy. The motivation to succeed becomes purely self-driven, and while that can be a powerful force, it lacks the deeper meaning that comes from building a life alongside another person. The lack of companionship also means that when life throws its inevitable hardships his way, he has no emotional support system to fall back on. He faces his struggles alone, fights his battles alone, and processes his emotions alone. While this builds resilience, it also builds walls. A man who becomes too accustomed to solitude may find it difficult to open up when the right person does come along. He may be so conditioned to rely on himself that he struggles to trust or depend on anyone else, even when it is safe to do so. He may mistake self-sufficiency for strength, while dismissing the idea that true strength also includes vulnerability and connection. On the surface, a life without a girlfriend is a life of ultimate freedom. It is a world where a man answers to no one but himself and builds his destiny with no external influence. But beneath that independence lies the quiet reality that freedom without balance can lead to emptiness. The challenge is not just in embracing independence, but in knowing when and how to share it without losing oneself in the process. A man without a girlfriend learns emotional strength in ways he never expected. When you walk alone, you don't have the luxury of leaning on someone else for support. Every hardship, every struggle, every moment of doubt, you handle it all on your own. There's no comforting embrace at the end of a bad day, no reassuring words from a partner when life gets tough. You learn to pick yourself up, to motivate yourself, to push forward when no one else is watching. This kind of emotional resilience is rare. It turns you into a man who does not rely on external validation, who finds strength within, and who understands that no one is coming to save him. And while that lesson is empowering, it can also be dangerously isolating. Over time, a man without emotional attachment becomes hardened. He stops expecting support from anyone, and in doing so, he slowly shuts himself off from the world. What begins as self-reliance can turn into emotional numbness. He convinces himself that he doesn't need connection, that vulnerability is weakness, that being emotionally closed off is the best way to protect himself from disappointment. This mindset might keep him from getting hurt, but it also keeps him from truly living. He becomes so good at suppressing emotions that he struggles to connect. Even in friendships, even with family, even with himself, he laughs, but the joy is surface level. He moves through life efficiently, but without warmth. He is present, but never fully engaged. Loneliness is a quiet enemy, creeping in without warning. It doesn't hit all at once. It builds over time. Might be surrounded by friends, colleagues, and acquaintances, but deep down, he feels an emptiness that no amount of success, money, or distraction can fill. He tells himself that he's fine, that he enjoys his freedom, but then there are nights when the silence is deafening. There are moments when he achieves something great, and yet there's no one special to share it with. The absence of connection starts to weigh on him in ways he never anticipated. The truth is, being alone forces a man to build emotional strength, but if he's not careful, it can also lead to emotional detachment. There's power in being able to stand on your own and not needing constant reassurance from a partner. But there's also danger in becoming so independent that you forget how to let someone in. Strength isn't just about enduring pain alone. It's about knowing when to open up, when to trust, when to allow yourself to feel deeply. Because at the end of the day, life is not just about surviving, it's about experiencing, connecting, and growing. A man without a girlfriend might master the art of emotional resilience, but the real question is, will he allow himself to experience the kind of connection that makes that strength truly meaningful? A man without a girlfriend has one of the greatest advantages in life: time. Time to build, time to grow, time to chase his ambitions without distractions. When there's no relationship to maintain, no constant check-ins, no need to divide energy between personal goals and someone else's needs, he can fully dedicate himself to his craft. He wakes up each day with a single focus: his own success. He has the freedom to take risks, to stay up late grinding, to move across the country for an opportunity without worrying about how it will affect a relationship. Every decision is his alone, and that kind of control can be intoxicating. With no emotional obligations pulling him in different directions, he has the space to develop himself in ways that many men in relationships struggle to. He can hit the gym consistently, sharpen his skills, expand his knowledge, and cultivate a mindset of discipline. He learns to rely on himself, to build habits that serve his future, and to embrace a level of self-sufficiency that many never achieve. This phase of life is where great men are made, where the foundation for true success is built. He has the time and energy to explore his passions fully, to try new things without hesitation, and to grow without limits. But the very thing that gives him strength can also be his greatest weakness. When a man is so deeply focused on his own journey, he can start to lose sight of the value of relationships. He may convince himself that emotions are distractions, that love is a weakness, that companionship is unnecessary. He becomes so used to being alone that he starts to believe he doesn't need anyone. Over time, his success becomes a solitary achievement, and even though he reaches his goals, he may find that the satisfaction is fleeting. A man can build an empire, but if there's no one beside him to celebrate it, does it truly feel like success? The danger of extreme independence is that it can turn into isolation. He gets so used to doing everything on his own that he struggles to let anyone in. He might even begin to view relationships as a threat to his progress rather than an enhancement to his life. He's built his world around solitude, around grinding in silence, and the idea of making space for someone else feels like a disruption rather than a natural progression. This mindset can lead to a cycle where he pushes people away without realizing it, where he avoids deep connections because they require vulnerability. Success without connection is an empty victory. A man without a girlfriend may have the time to build himself into something great, but if he neglects the importance of relationships, he may find himself at the top of his game, yet feeling unfulfilled. The challenge isn't just in achieving greatness, it's in knowing how to share it, how to balance ambition with connection, and how to recognize that true success isn't just about personal achievement, but about building a life that feels complete. A man without a girlfriend often discovers a deep sense of peace that many in relationships never experience. There's no drama, no emotional roller coaster, no stress from misunderstandings or unmet expectations. He moves through life without having to constantly decode mixed signals or navigate the complexities of a romantic relationship. His mind is clear, focused. He doesn't have to explain himself, doesn't have to compromise, doesn't have to adjust his lifestyle to accommodate someone else's feelings. The solitude brings a kind of mental freedom that allows him to think deeply, to strategize, and to pursue his life with a calm, collected energy. This peace extends into his daily life in ways that often go unnoticed. There are no arguments lingering in the background, no pressure to remember special dates, no anxiety over whether he's being the kind of man his partner expects him to be. He is free from the emotional ups and downs that come with love, breakups, and the constant effort needed to maintain a relationship. He learns to enjoy his own company, to sit in silence without feeling lonely, to embrace solitude as a source of strength rather than an emptiness to be filled. This self-containment makes him unshakable. He is not dependent on someone else for validation, comfort, or stability. However, this level of peace can also come with an unintended cost. When a man becomes too comfortable in his solitude, he risks losing the ability to connect on a deep emotional level. Relationships, despite their challenges, force people to grow, to compromise, to learn how to navigate differences. A man who avoids relationships in pursuit of peace may unintentionally avoid the personal development that comes from working through difficulties with another person. He may become so accustomed to his own way of living that he finds it difficult to welcome someone else into his world. The absence of romantic conflict does not mean the absence of emotional growth. Without challenges, without someone to test his patience, to challenge his thinking, to encourage him to become better, he risks stagnation. He may become rigid in his ways, unwilling to adapt, unwilling to share his space, unwilling to let his guard down. What begins as peaceful solitude can turn into emotional detachment, making it harder for him to build meaningful connections even when he wants to. Ultimately, a man without a girlfriend enjoys a life free from many of the emotional burdens that come with relationships, but he also walks a fine line between peace and isolation. He must ask himself, is he choosing solitude because it brings him true happiness? Or is he avoiding relationships because he fears the effort they require? Peace is valuable, but it should not come at the cost of personal growth and connection. A life lived entirely for oneself may be calm, but is it truly fulfilling? A man without a girlfriend often finds that his financial freedom is unmatched. Without the responsibilities of date nights, gifts, anniversaries, and the expenses that come with maintaining a relationship, his money is his own. Every dollar he earns goes toward his personal goals, investments, self-improvement, travel, or simply building a life of comfort without external financial obligation. He doesn't have to think twice about making big purchases or worry about budgeting for someone else's needs. His money works for him, not for a relationship, and that independence gives him the ability to shape his financial future exactly how he wants. This financial freedom allows him to take risks. He can invest aggressively, start a business, or pursue unconventional paths without worrying about how it affects a partner. If he wants to quit his job and chase a dream, he doesn't have to seek approval. If he wants to save every penny and live frugally, he doesn't have to justify it. If he wants to splurge on himself, there's no guilt involved. He is the sole decision maker in his financial journey. And that kind of control accelerates his ability to build wealth and stability. However, while financial independence is a powerful advantage, it can also lead to a mindset where he views relationships as liabilities rather than investments. He may start to see love as an expense rather than an experience. He becomes so used to his financial autonomy that the idea of sharing his resources feels like a burden rather than a natural part of life. He convinces himself that relationships drain more than they contribute, that financial security is best maintained alone, that emotional connections are distractions from his financial goals. This perspective can make him hesitant to form deep bonds, leading him to prioritize money over meaningful relationships. Over time, a man who focuses solely on financial independence may realize that success feels empty when there's no one to share it with. He can afford the best things in life, but the experiences lack depth when enjoyed in solitude. He can travel the world, stay in luxury hotels, and drive the best cars, but if he's always alone, the joy is short-lived. There's a difference between financial success and a fulfilling life, and money alone does not create happiness. A man without a girlfriend has the unique advantage of being in complete control of his financial destiny, but he must be careful not to let wealth replace connection. Money provides security, but true wealth is found in relationships, experiences, and shared moments. The key is not just to build financial freedom, but to create a life that is rich in meaning, purpose, and connection. A man without a girlfriend has the unique opportunity to fully discover who he is without external influence. Without the expectations, compromises, and emotional responsibilities that come with a relationship, he has the freedom to explore his true identity. He is not trying to meet someone else's standards, not shaping his decisions around what a partner wants, and not adjusting his personality to fit into a relationship. Instead, he operates with complete authenticity, making choices that align with his values, his ambitions, and his vision for the future. This period of self-discovery is powerful. He learns what truly drives him, what excites him, and what kind of life he genuinely wants to live. He can test different paths, pursue new passions, and redefine himself without hesitation. He isn't concerned about pleasing anyone but himself, and that independence allows him to grow in ways that might not be possible in a relationship. He can travel wherever he wants, work on himself without distraction, and build habits that reflect his own desires rather than someone else's expectations. However, while self-discovery is crucial, too much time spent alone can create an unbalanced perspective on relationships. A man who becomes too comfortable in his solitude may start to see relationships as limitations rather than opportunities for growth. He might convince himself that companionship is unnecessary, that emotional connection is a distraction, or that vulnerability is a weakness. Over time, he risks building a world so centered around himself that he struggles to let anyone in. True self-discovery isn't just about knowing who you are alone, it's also about understanding how you exist in connection with others. Relationships challenge a man to grow in ways that solitude never can. They teach patience, empathy, sacrifice, and the value of compromise. A man who isolates himself may never develop these traits, and while he may feel strong on his own, he may struggle to form meaningful bonds when he finally desires connection. A man without a girlfriend has the chance to build an identity that is purely his own, but he must remember that true growth comes not just from independence, but from learning how to balance self-sufficiency with connection. The ultimate strength is not just in standing alone, but in knowing how to share his world with someone without losing himself in the process. A man without a girlfriend walks a path of independence, freedom, and self-discovery. He enjoys peace without drama, financial control without obligations, and a life shaped entirely by his own choices. He builds himself without compromise, learns to appreciate solitude, and grows into the man he envisions. But in the pursuit of personal freedom, he must ask himself, is he truly fulfilled, or is he avoiding the challenges that come with deep connections? Life is not just about independence, it's about balance. Solitude can be powerful, but it should not become isolation. Financial success is valuable, but it means little without people to share it with. Self-discovery is crucial, but real growth happens when we learn to connect without losing ourselves. At the end of the day, the choice isn't between having a girlfriend or not. It's about understanding what truly brings meaning to your life, whether alone or in a relationship. The goal is to live with purpose, to grow without limitations, and to ensure that whatever path you walk, it leads to a life of true fulfillment.